Hey, what is going on, everybody? Bam Deadstroke. Back in Rocket League, or somewhat back in Rocket League. Today, we are going to be taking a look at some stuff that's happened in Rocket League recently, and I'm calling it the Untitled Rocket League podcast. Okay, maybe I'm not calling it that, but I don't actually have a name for it yet, so we'll talk about that later. But for now, let's just run through what all we're going to be doing today. So today, we're going to talk about Archie versus Scrubkilla, of course, the beef on Twitter. We're also going to be talking about the best team and the best region in the world right now. We're going to recap the Winter European Regional and the Oceanic Regional, as well as the North American Grid recap. So, yeah, let's jump right into it. So, first of all, obviously, Rizzo is talking about me and this podcast, because all the Redditors are glued to know when this podcast is coming out. So, thank you, Rizzo, for keeping it on the DL though. Okay, but seriously, he's talking about Archie versus Scrubkilla. So, Archie, player for Top Blokes, and Scrubkilla has moved around quite a bit. He's gone from Guild to Singularity, from Vitality and Dignitas and wherever else. And it started out, we'll talk about what started a little bit later, but basically, Scrub was like, yeah, NA sucks, I can literally farm anybody. And some random person pointed out that he can't farm anyone in tournaments, and posted the Guild Esports results from recent events. And let's just say they're not great. So Archie replied and said LMAO, because it is really funny. And then Scrub pointed out that in the 1v1 show match that Johnny Boy hosted, Scrub beat Archie. And he was like, yeah, well, there you go. So Archie replies, if he wants Scrub to be shown all the times that his team has swept Scrub in events. And he posts 4 different times that Scrub's team has been swept by Archie's team. And Reddles, we'll get back to that later, just replies, LOL, Archie says Scrub is so free. And then Scrub says, I took the L on Guild, bro, but you're getting clapped with Breezy and Hibbs. Of course, Scrub's teammates on Singularity. But I think Scrub might have forgotten that they just played a few days ago in the new European regional stuff and all that. And Scrub's team got swept again. So Archie, with the zzz, because he's just sleepwalking through everything. And Scrub goes, it's one series though, when we regain when I don't have a 0.3 rating. Of course, talking about the tweet there on the far right, that Scrub got a 0.3 rating from Octane GG in that match against Top Blokes. It said that we're going to farm, and I'm going to be laughing my ass off. And Archie goes from all the way down there, of course referencing the point standings. So this is all in good fun. I really like it when Rocket League players have beef with each other for whatever reason. I think it gives them more character as players, as opposed to just being these robots that never say anything negative about anybody. So I love seeing this. It gets people involved. Obviously, I took all these screenshots like right as they were happening, as you can see, 53 minutes ago, 14 minutes ago, 7 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago, etc. But they get impressions, they get people invested, they get people interested in what's going on, because obviously people care about when shit's going down. So whenever you get the chance to call people out like that, I mean, you got to take it. And I love this. I love the discussion that we're gonna talk about next. About the best region, best teams, etc., etc. I love it when players go at it like this. Yeah, I just think it's all in good fun. I love seeing this. You don't watch a sport, because God bless Andrew Luck, being the nice guy quarterback for the Colts that retired early, but you don't watch a sporting event to watch Andrew Luck say good tackle or whatever. You know, you watch it because people are getting up in their face, they're trash talking. Like, everybody loves trash talking. So I love to see this. I think this is great for Rocket League. I think this is great for these players to, you know, get out there more. And I think it's great. What I also think is great is having discussions about which region and team really is the best. So on the left, we've got, you know, North America, Reddles, and Turbo Pulsa, the 4-time, who is on Envy. And Reddles starts out, this was during the regional, by the way. And Reddles starts out, and watching EU Rocket League and still seeing people call BDS the best team in the world. All in all, my words won't be 100% trusted until LANs come back. NA has been better than EU by quite a margin for the last year or so. BDS, a Vitality that's grinding, and a peaking Top Blokes Giants would be able to compete with an average NA top 4. And I actually don't think that's far off. I really don't think there's anything wrong with Reddle saying this. He's confident in his team, SSG. He's confident in the people that he's playing against for the last year. Since the pandemic, we haven't had LAN events, so it's been really hard to, you know, you can't play North America against Europe because one of the teams is going to have a really bad ping disadvantage. So you can't, it's really hard to do that. So, you know, there's not really much to go off of. And Turbo gets involved. I can't remember exactly what all. I think Turbo's was actually in response to the previous thread, but with Archie and Scrubkilla. And he said, "I'm still in NA. EU ain't winning international lands for a while," which is big words coming from Turbo. A lot of people think, you know, he's the best player ever, being the 4-time world champion, and now being in North America. You know, how would that affect everything? And Turbo seems very confident in North America beating Europe. Of course, Turbo originally from Europe, dominated Europe very similarly to what BDS is doing now. So, you know, to see something like that, you know, Turbo loves to stir the pot, but to see something like that is a really big step from North American Rocket League. So, Gregan, of course, been a coach for so many Rocket League teams, puts out a post, EU greater than NA, of course, because it's Gregan, you know, love him. And then Card, the South American Rocket League player, also got in on it because Reddles was replying to a different South American Rocket League player and just said, "Don't get me started on South America." And Card was like, "You guys don't have to leave the Americas to get clapped." And Reddles just straight up called South America terrible, and Card replied, "Suck my dick." Again, I think this is great. I love this banter going back and forth. I love these, you know, shots at everybody. I think this is great. I love seeing this. Like I said, it gives them more personality as players. They're not just trying to be the nice guy. They're actually being who they are. They're being people that, you know, are confident in themselves and stuff like that. And I love to see this. But the question still remains, which region and team really is the best? So if you asked me right now, I would agree with what a lot of people think, in that BDS is the best team in the world. They have taken Europe by storm, and originally I didn't think that they were all that. I thought this was just kind of a one-hit wonder, you know, a fluky deal, but they've proven me wrong. They've come out and they've just dominated Europe week in and week out, month in, month out. All of 2020 has belonged to BDS in Europe. So I would have BDS at 1. And then I do agree with Reddles. I think Vitality, Top Blokes, and Giants would all be able to compete in NA on an average NA week or a down NA week. But with Space Station Gaming, NRG, G2, and Envy, I think all 4 of those teams are better than Vitality, Top Blokes, and Giants. I think that if you looked at the top 5 right now, you'd have BDS and 4 North American teams. And I think you could really rearrange the 4 North American teams. I think you'd have G2 and SSG as the top 2, and G2 and Envy as the back 2. But you could rearrange those. You could say SSG is better than NRG, NRG is better than SSG, and you could say G2 is better than Envy. You could say Envy is better than G2. But I think those are your next 4 after BDS. And then Vitality and Top Blokes, I think, are up there. I also think, not included in any of this, Sandrock Gaming, of course, from the Middle East. I think they're, and I think that the only reason that they're not talked about more is because they don't have a platform in EU or North America or Oceanic or South America. They're not one of the talked about regions, but I would have them in the top 10 somewhere. I have them 8th behind Vitality and Top Blokes. Then I have Rogue. Call me a fanboy of Rogue, whatever. They just got rid of Kronovi. They added Taroko. I think that's an upgrade now. I probably wouldn't have said that was an upgrade a year ago. But I think Rogue looked really good in the grid that we'll talk about later. And then at 10, I have Giants. So that would be my top 10. You've got 4 European teams, 5 North American teams, and Sandrock Gaming in the top 10. I can see arguments for a couple teams outside of my top 10. I can see Pioneers, Peeps, in no particular order, by the way. Kansas City Pioneers, Galaxy Racer, Peeps, Renegades from OCE. I don't think they're quite top 10, but I do think that them and Ground Zero Gaming are probably the top 2 in OCE, and then Endpoint being the last team there, top 15 or 16. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Is there one team that specifically stands out amongst the others? Is North America better than Europe right now? I think collectively it is. I still think it's close, but, again, we'll have to wait and see when LANs come back. Yeah, let me know. Do you guys think that there's any teams that stand out above the others? Are there any teams that have fallen off? Are there any teams that have jumped out to you recently? Yeah, I think it's BDS 1. I think they beat anybody more consistently than anybody else right now. I know they're only playing against the other European team, so it's easy to figure everybody else out, but nobody's figured out BDS because they're just wiping the floor with everybody. So yeah, that would be my top 10: BDS, NRG, SSG, G2, Envy, Vitality, Blokes, Sandrock Gaming, Rogue, and Giants. Again, I think the back half of that, or back couple of those Rogue, Giants, you could sub those in and out for a couple different other teams, but I think that's pretty close to a good top 10. Also, Sandrock Gaming, they don't have the like statistics and everything that all the other teams do, but I would include them in the top 10. Moving on, we had some actually really quick. Do the standings tell us anything? Looking at this, again, this is only including the fall regionals because Europe just had their winter regional, so I didn't want to include that and skew like points or anything. So this is just looking at fall regionals and then the fall major for both regions. I think the one thing that stands out to me like really hard is the winners of each regional and then the major. Europe, you've got BDS, Vitality, BDS. And it's just those 2 teams, and Vitality only won one of the 4 major like point totals or top point totals. In NA, you've got Space Station, NRG, and Envy all won a regional. So you've got 3 different regional winners. Then Space Station came back and won the fall major. And then a 4th team in G2 got in because of the grid. They ended up winning the first segment of the grid. That's what that purple highlight is, and then of course on the other side you've got Vitality with that purple strip because highlighted in purple because they won their thing. So you've got 4 teams in North America that win 5 different things. So you've got Fall Regional 1, Fall Regional 2, Fall Regional 3, Fall Major, and then the grid as your 5 major tournaments, if you want to call them that, for the fall. You've got 4 different winners for those 5 in NA and 2 different winners for those 5 in Europe. And I think that tells the story. I think that tells you everything you need to know right now. There's a lot more parity. It might not show it because of the point standings. Point standings very similar. You've got 1604 to 1403, 1251 for both 2s, then Envy over Top Blokes, and then G2 over Endpoint, and then you start to balance out a little bit closer. But yeah, I think that tells you all you need to know is that 2 teams won the 5 things in Europe and 4 teams won the 5 things in North America. I just think there's more parity there. Whether that means they're better or worse, again, we'll have to wait and see for the lands to come back so we can actually have these cross regional games. But I think that the parity in North America makes it better, not worse. I think that makes them worse than BDS, but I think they're better than Vitality. So that's kind of my reasoning behind that. And then you can look through the other teams. Of course, none of these stats had the roster changes. There was a shit ton of roster changes that I feel like I'm a little late to cover, but if you want me to cover those in the next episode of this, I would love to do that. But I wanted to keep it more what's going on now. So speaking of what's going on now, we just had the European and Oceanic Winter Regional events, the first one anyway. And surprise, surprise, top 4 in Europe. Not really changing a whole lot. BDS wins it. Vitality second, Giants third, and Top Blokes fourth. Oxygen and Team Queso with really good showings. Guild, Wolves also with really good showings. Dignitas back there you see in 12th, or 9th through 12th, I should say. Endpoint really struggled. You see them in the 13th through 16th bracket, I guess, for a team that a lot of people would have. I see arguments for them being a top 10 team. I see arguments for them being a top 5 or 6 team in Europe. We go back to the standings. They're 4th after the fall regionals, but a rough start to the winter split here for Endpoint, finishing in that 13th through 16th bracket. Over in OCE, Ground Zero Gaming over Cringe Society. Of course, Ground Zero Gaming, one of the bigger roster changes in OCE, adding Torsos to go along with their roster. And it looks like it's already paying out as they take down the OCE regional over Cringe Society, Torsos' former team, as well as Direwolves and Renegades. They're finishing in the 3rd, 4th split. As far as any surprises, I would say Mind Freak being in the 5th through 8th and not 3rd or 4th with Renegades. I would say that's your biggest surprise. Mind Freak, I believe they lost to Direwolves in their quarterfinal match. So I would say that's really the only surprise in the OCE region. Other than that, it looks pretty stock to me. Looks pretty chalk. The favorites were the favorites for a reason. But yeah, Renegades not winning it, I guess, is kind of a surprise to people because, like I mentioned in my top 10, I think that them and Ground Zero Gaming are the top 2 teams in OCE. So to not see them top 2 is a little bit of a surprise. But yeah, I think Ground Zero, Cringe Society, Renegades, and Mind Freak, top 4 teams in OCE moving forward. So no real surprises here. A lot of this went about how we expected it, other than Endpoint finishing 13th through 16th. Also, recently, we had the Grid North America. The Grid now in a completely new format. So previously it was the group stages, and then you finished top 2 group stages. You went on to playoffs. And they did that all on Thursdays. They did it week for 9 weeks or whatever. I think it was 9 weeks. And then you got points, and then you qualified for the major, and the top 8 teams or whatever played in the playoffs for the major, and you went from there. But now you have 4 groups. They play, I think the first one was this past Thursday. I'm recording this on a Tuesday, so this was the past Thursday. And then the next one is in the first week of December, but it's in this new format where you have the 4 groups. You play the 4 groups, and then all 16 teams make the playoff, and the group records just show your seeding. So you've got NRG Group A, G2 Group B, Base Station Group C, NV Group D. No real surprises. You throw those teams into the round of 16. They play best of 5, best of 5, best of 7, best of 7. And yeah, again, no real surprises here. Even looking through the group stages, maybe KCP over Sonics would have been, more traditional, I guess, in Group B. or maybe like, I don't know. Yeah, that's about it actually, because I think Group C, E United and Alpine are pretty close, and they were pretty close. Rogue, I think, is the second best team in that group, and Space Station is the best team in that group. And then looking at the round of 16, the only actual upset was Kansas City Pioneers over Pittsburgh Knights, and I think most people would probably pick KCP in that matchup anyway over the Knights. So I don't even really think that that's an upset. And then the only other upset being the bottom team, if you want to call it that, over the top team is in the semis. You see G2 beating Envy, which again, as I mentioned before, you can flip those two either way. Those two teams are pretty even to me. And then NRG and Space Station going to Game 7 in the semis on the top half. Again, you can flip those teams either way. And then G2 NRG going to 7, and NRG took it down in Game 7. It was a really fun series. I highly recommend you go watch that. Maybe I'll link like a VOD or something down below, so you guys can go check it out. All the links to all this will be in the description. Excuse me. I got like all of this stuff from Liquipedia, from Octane, from Twitter. So yeah, be sure to follow me, follow Liquipedia, follow Octane. I'll have all those links down below in the description, so be sure to check out all of them. And yeah, that's about all I have for this first podcast. I don't know how long we've been going here. Let me check. It's been about 20 minutes. So I think for like a first podcast, a recap and everything, this is a fine length. If you guys want it to be longer or shorter, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I don't know why it's white here. But yeah, thank you guys for watching and listening. Like, comment, subscribe down below. I'm gonna have a comment challenge every week that I do this. This will be a weekly thing. This podcast, the weekly challenge in the comments is to name this podcast. Like, what should I call this podcast? Let me know down below, or we can just leave it Untitled Rocket League Podcast, because memes or something. I don't know, but yeah, that's gonna do it for me. Like, comment, subscribe down below. I'll try to have guests on. I don't know. I'm not a very big brand or anything. Let me know if you guys like this format for doing a PowerPoint, or if you just want to like see one picture and just have me discuss everything. I know for people that prefer to listen to podcasts as opposed to watching them might want more descriptions. So let me know all that stuff down below. Yeah, so that's gonna do it. This was the first episode of the Untitled Rocket League podcast. I'm your host, Bam. And I will see you guys next time. Peace out.